Trump's speech at Mount Rushmore. I thought it was just fantastic, especially after weeks of watching protests and riots daily, weekly in the news, on YouTube. And especially, to this particular section, I felt like he was reading my mind. I'm sure that he was, addressing matters that was on the mind of many people. Specifically, the following paragraph: in our schools, our newsrooms, even corporate boardrooms, there is a new far-left fascism that demands absolute allegiance. If you do not speak its language, perform its rituals, recite its mantras, and follow its commandments, then you will be censored, banished, blacklisted, persecuted, and punished. That really just hit the nail on the head for me, and I think it did for a lot of other people. And then to see the kind of coverage that came out from the establishment media, let's call them, for example, Reuters, I cannot imagine anything being more disingenuous. Just look at the spin in this article title: Trump attacks left-wing cultural movement, in quotation marks, no less, as if this wasn't a thing. So, I don't know. Where do we begin with this? Okay. First of all, if you have any doubts that the BLM movement has been co-opted by cultural Marxists in the most formal sense, just listen to the self-admission of one of its co-founders, Patrice Coulars, pardon my pronunciation.
The criticism is helpful. I also think that it might... I think of a lot of things. The first thing I think is that we actually do have an ideological frame. Myself and Alicia in particular are trained organizers. We are trained Marxists. We are super versed on sort of ideological theory.
Super versed on ideological theory. Marxist, cultural Marxist ideological theory. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, what the heck is cultural Marxist ideology theory? Well, to kind of sum that up in a soundbite, I share with you now a short interview clip of Yuri Bezmenov. Now, this fellow, he left the Soviet Union. He defected. He's a former KGB agent, and he knows a thing or two about this. I encourage you to look him up and to do further research on him. He's really a fascinating character.
Change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in four basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind. Even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black, you still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible. To get rid society of these people, you need another 20 or 15 years to educate a new generation of patriotically minded and common sense people who would be acting in favor and in the interests of the United.
Well, let's hope that Yuri is mistaken about that last part, because that does not bode well for the near-term future. However, let it be known that all these minority interest groups that appear to be making their presence known and making their demands understood, and whom are protesting, are actually one movement. One movement that are, it's a collectivist movement, where, they're trying to work together. And, their movement is very well documented. You can do your own homework, but the days of them simply denying the existence of that ideology, I think, is a thing of the past.